Hi, welcome to You Can Sketch 2, number 6. And today we're going to start talking about figures, using figures in an urban sketch, how you do it, why you do it, when you do it. And then in the next video, part 2, we'll actually make a sketch together. But I just want to go through a few of the principles with it today. Now, I think the best way I can do this is by giving you a little demonstration. Now, until very recently, when I made a sketch, I wouldn't actually include the figures in it. My idea basically was that, I was drawing the sketch because I was interested in the building, not in the people by it, and there seemed not a lot of point of putting any people there. And so I wouldn't. But much more recently, I have actually started including figures whenever it's been appropriate. And we'll talk briefly about when it would be appropriate to include a figure and when maybe it wouldn't shortly. What I'm doing here is I'm just making a very, very quick sketch which will hopefully demonstrate what I'm trying to talk about today, which is why you'd use figures, where you'd put figures into your pictures, and the kind of effect which using a figure might have. Okay, so if I just very, very quickly shade that one in, you'll notice maybe that I'm going for a full shading on this. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later. Okay, so let me just, all I'm going to do is shade him in for half a minute. Okay, so I've just shaded him in, and hopefully you can probably see that it's a walking figure. I'm just going to put another one alongside it there. This one is slightly shorter. Okay, that's cool. There we are, just put the feet on. There you go. Same with that one, I'm just going to shade it in. If I do it now, you get an idea of just how quickly you can actually make a figure sketch. Now, there is a reason why I'm doing it on this black piece of paper. There is method in my madness. But if you'll bear with me, I'd rather... Well, I was going to say I'll explain it. Actually, I'm sure it'll become self-explanatory in a moment or two. There we go, just shade down. I very, very often do actually go for total shading with figures, almost leaving them in complete silhouette. I'll talk about why when I actually show you how they work in a whole sketch. But I like the effect that you can get. And there you go, okay? So how long's that taken? 2 minutes maybe? No more than that. Now let me show you those. There you go. Now you can see there's a boy, girl, or man, woman, two of them there. Now on their own, just making a sketch by themselves, and you can be totally honest with me, not much to write home about, to be perfectly honest. Okay, now get those figures clear in your mind. Now these are the figures I just copied them from, and this was a sketch I made a couple of weeks ago. And hopefully now you'll see that when your figures, very simple figures, you saw how it took me about 2 minutes to sketch those figures out. Very simple figures, but put them into a sketch, into a context, and they can be extremely effective. So let's just have a little look more closely at how this is working. Now, as it happens, these two here, this was a sketch I made in Cardiff, Wales's capital city, a couple of weeks ago when I went out on a Saturday with my daughter Jessica, it's my youngest daughter, and her fiance Dan. And I sketched the two of them walking past this bridal shop because they're engaged and they're getting married fairly soon. So I just thought it was quite nice, you know. Now, what I want you to do is have a look at what you achieve with these figures here. Suddenly, it puts the whole of the shop into context, into, I was going to say perspective. It gives you something to measure against the size. We know how tall people are, and that really gives you an idea of the size of the street. Talking about simple figures as well, you might have a look at, in the distance, I've made these smaller figures, a whole group together, very blobby, indistinct shape. The only thing distinct about them is a couple of the heads and also the legs. But again, really, really effective because it increases the sense of perspective here. And also it adds a whole drama. I mean, maybe you think I'm going too far, but I look at this and I'm starting to see a story emerge of the two figures here, the boy and the girl. You don't have to know who they are. You know, walking past the shop, heading down Cardiff. There's shadows coming out behind them. I see this as the two of them walking off into the future, you know. Well, all right, maybe I'm stretching things a bit. But you can get some very, very nice effects just by putting some silhouette figures in. I'll show you some examples now. This one was made on the same day in the Hayes in Cardiff. We're a very busy, very popular area, lots of bars, restaurants. It's a good place. Now, can you imagine if I took the figures out of there, you wouldn't get the same atmosphere at all. It wouldn't convey what the Hayes is actually all about. I'll show you just a couple more now. Same day, shopping street in Cardiff. Again, it's the figures which give an idea of this as being the busy shopping street. None of them, if you look, particularly complicated. Most of them just silhouettes, but they do give the effect, especially when you're not shading in huge areas of the buildings either, or when you're only using hatching or cross-hatching. Just one more. I was in Prague a few weeks ago, and it's a fabulous place. I mean, it's like walking through, if you like buildings, it's like walking through a 3D architectural textbook. So many buildings, in fact, that you can't actually get round to sketching everything you'd like to sketch. But if you see this building, in the old town, I just turned a corner once and there it was. And I was so taken with it, I just sat in a doorstep and sketched it. And again, it's just the building is the star, but the figures just add a little more drama into it. It means that we're not looking at a ghost town, a completely run-down place where there's no people living anymore. And I do think that it adds something to your sketches. Well, as I say, this was only a short video just to introduce the ideas, but hopefully that's given some idea of how we can do a sketch, outline and shading, and why. Of course, one thing we haven't covered is the fact that buildings don't move a lot and people do. I'm just going to show you one last, which I wasn't planning on, but I'll show you one last sketch which I did recently now. Sorry, bear with me. This was another sketch made in Prague on the famous Charles Bridge, which is one of the most wonderful buildings in Prague. What it was, I was walking across it early in the morning, about 8:30, and this chap was right in front of me in his monk's habit. Whether he was a genuine monk, whether he was doing some kind of historical reenactment for the tourists, I've no idea. But I walked behind him and very, very quickly sketched in his outline and also the folds of his habit. The way I managed to do that was, although he's walking, every couple of seconds the same step is actually repeated. So sketch a bit, what you can remember, look, he's doing it again, sketch it. I'd like to think he had no idea that I was actually doing it. And it turns out I've got him in. Now, these figures all around him, they weren't actually walking past him at the time. They came later. I stayed in the same spot. Once I was happy that I'd got what I needed to get from the monk, then I waited for people to come past and again did the same thing, sketched them in very, very quickly. This guy, I had to work like the clappers to get in. But you can see I'm more interested in the people on this. The people aren't there just to build up the picture. To be honest, the people kind of are the picture, particularly the monk. I've done hardly any detail on the bridge at all, very little compared to what I'd like to do. But I'm so happy with the picture because I managed to do it while it was actually all happening. I wasn't using a photograph to sketch it from. So there you go. Okay, we'll put this all into practice in the next video, part 2. Hopefully see you there.